Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Dakota and watched the stars through the main screen. Space looked peaceful from here, but Jake knew better. The war with the Kethver Empire had been going on for 3 years now, and peaceful moments were rare. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Alex Carter, his first officer. Alex had been with Jake for 2 years, and rarely got excited about anything. When Alex sounded worried, Jake paid attention. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked, walking over to Alex's station. "Debris field, sir. Big one. Looks like there was a major battle here recently." Alex pointed at the scanner readings. "I'm seeing pieces from both human and alien ships scattered across several kilometers." Jake studied the data on the screen. The debris field was massive, much larger than anything he had seen before. Twisted metal floated in the darkness, some pieces still glowing hot from weapon fire. He could make out parts of human destroyers, mixed with the strange purple metal that the Kethver used for their ships. "How recent?" Jake asked. "Based on the heat signatures, maybe 6 to 8 hours ago," said Kate Williams from the navigation station. Kate was young but sharp, and she had a good eye for details. "Sir, I'm also picking up a faint life sign." Jake's head snapped up. "Life sign, human or alien?" "Human, sir. It's coming from what looks like an escape pod caught in the debris field." Jake felt his pulse quicken. Finding survivors after a space battle was rare. Most of the time, if your ship was destroyed, you died with it. Escape pods were small targets, but they were also easy to miss in the chaos of combat. "Sam, take us in slow," Jake ordered his chief engineer, Sam Rodriguez. "I don't want to hit any of that debris." Sam nodded and began working at his console. The Dakota moved forward carefully, picking its way through the floating wreckage. Jake watched the screen as they got closer to the life sign. Soon, he could see the escape pod itself, a small white cylinder spinning slowly among the debris. "The pod looks damaged," Alex reported. "Hull breaches in 3 sections, but life support is still working. Can we get a transporter lock?" Jake asked. "Negative, sir. Too much interference from the debris. We'll need to bring the whole pod into the cargo bay." Jake nodded. "Do it." It took 20 minutes to carefully maneuver the escape pod into the Dakota's cargo bay. Jake met his medical officer, Dr. Ben Taylor, at the cargo bay doors. Ben was older than the rest of the crew, with gray hair and steady hands. He had seen plenty of combat casualties during the war. "What do we know about the survivor?" Ben asked, as they walked toward the pod. "Single human life sign, that's all," Jake replied. "Could be military or civilian." They reached the escape pod just as Sam finished cutting through the damaged hatch. The metal door fell away with a clang, and Jake peered inside. A woman sat hunched in the pilot's seat, her dark hair matted with dried blood. She wore a torn civilian jumpsuit that might have been blue once, but was now stained with oil and other fluids. The woman looked up as light flooded the pod. Her eyes were brown and seemed much older than her face, which Jake guessed was somewhere in her 30s. She blinked several times, as if she wasn't sure they were real. "It's okay," Jake said gently. "You're safe now. I'm Captain Morrison of the UES Dakota." The woman tried to speak but only managed a hoarse whisper. Ben immediately moved forward with his medical scanner. "She's dehydrated and exhausted," Ben said after a moment. "Some minor injuries, but nothing life-threatening." "How long were you in there?" he asked the woman. 2 days, she managed to say. Her voice was rough but steady. "Maybe 3. Hard to tell." "What's your name?" Jake asked. "Lisa Brooks," she replied. "I was on the research vessel Harmony. We were studying plant samples from the outer colonies when the Kethver attacked." Jake helped Lisa out of the pod while Ben supported her other side. She was taller than he had expected, probably close to 6 feet, but she moved like someone who had been cramped in a small space for too long. "How many ships attacked you?" Jake asked as they walked toward the medical bay. Lisa was quiet for a moment. 12, she said finally. Maybe more. Heavy cruisers, all of them. The Harmony. Never had a chance. Jake exchanged a look with Alex. 12 heavy cruisers was a massive force, more than enough to destroy an entire human battle group. Why would the Kethver send so many ships to attack a single research vessel? What kind of research were you doing? Alex asked. Plants, Lisa said simply. I'm a botanist. We were collecting samples from worlds near the frontier. Nothing military, nothing important. They reached the medical bay, and Ben helped Lisa onto one of the examination tables. She winced as she sat down, but didn't complain. Jake noticed that despite her exhaustion, her eyes kept moving around the room, taking in details. It was the behavior of someone who had been in dangerous situations before. The escape pod, Lisa said suddenly. Something was wrong with it. The systems kept shutting down and restarting. I think that's why the Kethver missed me. The pod wasn't sending out any signals. Lucky break, Jake said. Lisa nodded, but something in her expression made Jake think she didn't believe in luck any more than he did. Ben finished his examination and gave Lisa some water and emergency rations. The color was already returning to her face, and she seemed stronger. Captain, Kate's voice came over the intercom. You need to see this. Jake left Lisa with Ben and returned to the bridge. Kate was standing at her station, staring at the scanner readings with a confused expression. What is it? Jake asked. The debris patterns, sir. I've been analyzing them while we were rescuing the survivor. Kate pointed at the main screen, which now showed a tactical display of the debris field. This doesn't look like a normal Kethver attack formation. Jake studied the display. The debris was scattered in an unusual pattern, not the straight lines he would expect from ships fleeing an overwhelming attack. What does it look like to you? Jake asked. Kate hesitated. It looks like the human ships were trying to surround something, not escape from it. And the Kethver debris is concentrated in the center, not spread out like they were chasing. Before Jake could respond, the long-range sensors began beeping. Alex quickly moved to check the readings. Captain, we have incoming ships, Alex said, his voice tight. Kethver's signature, bearing 27 Mark IV. How many? Jake asked, though he already dreaded the answer. 12 heavy cruisers, sir. Same formation that attacked the research vessel. Jake felt ice in his stomach. 12 Kethver heavy cruisers against his single destroyer. The Dakota was fast and well armed, but she was no match for that kind of firepower. Time to intercept, Jake asked. 18 minutes, sir. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were good people, all of them. They didn't deserve to die in a hopeless battle, but they were too far from any human base to call for help, and the Dakota wasn't fast enough to outrun Kethver cruisers. All hands, prepare for combat, Jake announced over the ship's intercom. This is not a drill. As his crew began their preparations, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the strange debris patterns Kate had found. Something about this whole situation felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. And now they were about to face the same overwhelming force that had destroyed the Harmony. Somewhere deep in the ship, Lisa Brooks was probably wondering if she had been rescued only to die in another hopeless battle. Jake wished he could give her better news, but right now, all he could do was prepare his ship and crew for what looked like their final fight. The Kethver fleet grew larger on the main screen with each passing minute. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display and tried to think of a way out, but every option ended the same way. The Dakota was fast, but not fast enough. She was tough, but not tough enough to survive against 12 heavy cruisers. 15 minutes to contact, Alex Carter reported from his station. His voice was steady, but Jake could see the tension in his shoulders. The bridge crew was working with quiet efficiency, preparing weapons and shields for a battle they all knew they couldn't win. Captain, came Dr. Ben Taylor's voice over the intercom. Our passenger is asking to speak with you. She says it's urgent. Jake almost ignored the request. He had more important things to worry about than a traumatized botanist. But something made him pause. Maybe it was the way Lisa Brooks had looked around the medical bay, or the strange debris patterns Kate had found. "Send her to the bridge," Jake said. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened, and Lisa Brooks stepped onto the bridge. She looked much better than when they had pulled her from the escape pod. Ben had given her a clean jumpsuit, and her hair was no longer matted with blood. But there was something different about her now, something that made Jake pay attention. "Captain, I need to use your communication system," Lisa said without any greeting. "The communication system?" Jake asked. "Who do you need to contact?" "Other research vessels in the area," Lisa replied. "There might be more survivors from my team." Jake shook his head. "I'm sorry, but we can't risk sending any signals right now. The Kethver fleet would pick up any transmission we make." Lisa's expression didn't change, but Jake noticed her hands clench into fists. "Captain, you don't understand. This is important. So is keeping my crew alive," Jake said firmly. "I can't help you contact anyone if we're all dead." Lisa stared at him for a moment, then walked over to Kate Williams' navigation station. Kate looked up in surprise as Lisa leaned over her shoulder to study the scanner readings. "Interesting formation," Lisa said quietly, looking at the approaching Kethver ships. "Standard hunter-killer pattern, but with modifications for deep space pursuit." Kate blinked in surprise. "You know Kethver tactics. I've seen them before," Lisa said. She pointed at the tactical display. "They're not just trying to destroy us. They're trying to make sure nothing escapes. See how the outer ships are positioned? That's an encirclement pattern." Jake walked over to the navigation station. Lisa was right about the formation, but how would a botanist know that? "Where did you learn about alien tactics?" he asked. "Research vessels operate in dangerous space," Lisa replied. "You pick things up." Dr. Ben Taylor came onto the bridge carrying his medical tablet. He had been running more detailed scans on Lisa while she was in the medical bay, and he looked confused. "Captain, can I speak with you privately?" Ben asked Jake, followed Ben to a quiet corner of the bridge. Ben kept his voice low so Lisa couldn't hear them. "There's something strange about our passenger," Ben said. "Her brain activity is unusual, much higher than normal, even accounting for stress and trauma." "What do you mean unusual?" Jake asked. "I mean her neural patterns look like someone who's been interfaced with advanced computer systems for extended periods. That's not something you see in civilian researchers." Jake looked back at Lisa, who was still studying the tactical display with Kate. As he watched, Lisa began pointing out details of the Kethver formation, explaining things that even his trained navigation officer hadn't noticed. 12 minutes to contact," Alex announced. Jake made a decision. He walked back to Lisa and Kate's station. "Miss Brooks, I need you to return to your quarters. The bridge is about to become very dangerous." Lisa turned to face him, and for just a moment, Jake saw something flash in her brown eyes. It was gone so quickly, he might have imagined it, but it looked like anger. "Captain, I think I can help," Lisa said. "Help? How?" Jake asked. Instead of answering, Lisa moved to the tactical console, where Sam Rodriguez was preparing the ship's weapons. Sam looked up in surprise as Lisa began studying the display. "Your power distribution is inefficient," Lisa said, pointing at the screen. "You're running weapons at 85% capacity, when you could push them to at least 120 without damaging the systems." Sam stared at her. "How do you know our power specifications?" Lisa paused, as if she had said something she hadn't meant to say. "I worked on research vessels for years. You learn about ship systems. Research vessels don't carry military-grade weapons," Alex pointed out. Lisa was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, more controlled. "Captain Morrison, how attached are you to this ship?" The question caught Jake off guard. What kind of question is that? A practical one, Lisa replied. She was looking at the tactical display again, but her expression had changed. The frightened survivor was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she was solving a complex puzzle. 10 minutes to contact, Alex called out. Jake noticed that Lisa's hands were moving toward the tactical console. Miss Brooks, step away from that station. Lisa ignored him. Her fingers began dancing across the control panel with impossible speed and precision. Somehow, she had bypassed all the security locks that should have prevented a civilian from accessing military systems. Security to the bridge, Jake called over the intercom, but before anyone could respond, the Dakota's systems began changing. The lights on the bridge flickered, then grew brighter. Jake could hear the ship's engines changing pitch, cycling to a higher power output than the Dakota had ever achieved. The weapons display showed energy readings that should have been impossible. "What did you do?" Sam demanded, staring at his engineering console in shock. Lisa didn't answer. She was completely focused on the tactical display, her fingers moving across the controls like she was playing a musical instrument. Jake realized that she wasn't just using the ship's systems, she was somehow connected to them. 8 minutes. To contact, Alex said, his voice tight with worry. On the main screen, the Kethver fleet was close enough now that Jake could make out individual ships. Each heavy cruiser was 3 times the size of the Dakota, bristling with weapons and armor. Under normal circumstances, any one of them could destroy his ship. But these weren't normal circumstances anymore. The Dakota's shields were now showing power levels that exceeded their maximum ratings. The weapons were charging faster than Jake had ever seen them charge. Even the ship's hull seemed different somehow, as if it were responding to Lisa's commands at a molecular level. "Miss Brooks," Jake said carefully, "I think it's time you told us who you really are." Lisa's hands paused over the console for just a moment. When she looked up at Jake, her brown eyes had taken on an almost metallic gleam. "I'm exactly who I said I am, Captain," she said quietly. "Lisa Brooks, botanist, sole survivor of the research vessel Harmony." And Jake pressed. Lisa's smile was small and cold. "And the person the Kethver Empire sent 12 heavy cruisers to kill." Before Jake could respond, the long-range communications system crackled to life. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge, speaking in the guttural language of the Kethver. But underneath the alien words, Jake could hear something he had never heard from the Kethver before. Fear. Lisa listened to the transmission for a moment, then turned back to the tactical console. "They're not here to destroy your ship, Captain," she said as her hands resumed their impossible dance across the controls. "They're here to make sure I never leave this system alive." 6 minutes to contact, Alex announced. Jake stared at Lisa Brooks and realized that everything he thought he knew about their situation was wrong. The frightened botanist they had rescued was something else entirely. Something that made the Kethver Empire send an entire battle fleet to hunt her down, and now she was doing things to his ship that shouldn't be possible. Lisa Brooks continued working at the tactical console, her fingers moving faster than any human should be able to move. Jake Morrison watched in amazement as his ship responded to her commands in ways he had never seen before. The Dakota was becoming something more than just a destroyer. 4 minutes to contact, Alex Carter called out, but his voice sounded distant. Everyone on the bridge was staring at Lisa and the impossible things happening to their ship. The weapon systems were now showing 300% normal power output. The shields were strong enough to deflect asteroids. Even the ship's hull was somehow harder and more flexible than before. Jake had served on the Dakota for 5 years, and he thought he knew everything she could do. He was wrong. "What are you?" Jake demanded. Lisa didn't look up from the console. "I'm someone who's very good at staying alive, Captain." The Kethver transmission crackled through the speakers again. This time, Jake could make out a few words in broken human language, mixed with the alien speech. Words like ghost and ship killer and something that sounded like the one who bleeds stars. Dr. Ben Taylor was staring at his medical scanner, in shock. Captain, her brain activity is off the charts. She's processing information at a rate that should kill her. But it's not killing her, Kate Williams observed. She was watching Lisa with a mixture of fear and fascination. She's getting stronger. Jake looked at the tactical display and saw that the Kethfer fleet had changed formation. Instead of the standard attack pattern, they were now spreading out in what looked like a defensive formation. The aliens weren't just trying to destroy the Dakota anymore. They were trying to contain something. 2 minutes to contact, Alex announced. Lisa finally stopped working at the console and turned to face Jake. Her brown eyes now had a definite metallic gleam, and when she spoke, her voice carried a new authority. Captain Morrison, I need you to understand something very important, she said. My name is Lisa Brooks, and I am a botanist. That part is true, but I'm also Admiral Lisa Brooks, formerly of the Human Special Operations Division. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. The Special Operations Division was legendary among military personnel, but it was also classified at levels that most people never heard about, if such a division existed, which officially it didn't. That's impossible, Alex said. The Special Operations Division is a myth. Lisa smiled, but there was no humor in it. We're very good at being myths, Commander Carter. We have to be. She turned back to the tactical display, where the Kethfer ships were now close enough that their weapons were coming into range. The research vessel Harmony was carrying the last remnants of our program. Personnel files, technology specifications, genetic samples. Everything the Kethfer would need to understand what we had become. What you had become, Jake asked. Enhanced humans, Captain. People who had been modified to interface directly with advanced artificial intelligence systems. We could control entire fleets with our thoughts, process tactical information faster than any computer, and adapt technology in ways that shouldn't be possible. Jake stared at her. You're saying you're not fully human? I'm saying I'm more human than anyone else alive, Lisa replied. And that's exactly the problem. The Dakota shuddered as the first Kethfer energy bolts struck their shields. But instead of the violent shaking Jake expected, the impacts felt almost gentle. Lisa had somehow made their shields strong enough to absorb hits from heavy cruiser weapons. The Kethfer learned about our program through intelligence sources, Lisa continued as she worked. They realized that enhanced humans could turn the tide of this war in a matter of months. So they decided to eliminate us before we could become a threat. Sam Rodriguez was staring at his engineering console in disbelief. The power readings don't make sense. We're using energy that isn't there. I'm borrowing energy from quantum fluctuations in space-time, Lisa said casually. It's a temporary solution, but it should be enough for this battle. Jake felt like the world had shifted under his feet. You're manipulating quantum mechanics? The enhancements allowed direct interface with quantum-level processing systems, Lisa explained. Think of it as having a computer built into my brain, except the computer operates on principles that normal science hasn't discovered yet. More Kethfer energy bolts struck the Dakota, but the ship barely shook. On the main screen, Jake could see the alien heavy cruisers firing everything they had at his small destroyer. Under normal circumstances, the Dakota would have been destroyed in the first volley, but these weren't normal circumstances. Lisa's hands moved over the weapons controls, and the Dakota began firing back. Jake watched in amazement as their shots hit Kethfer ships with impossible accuracy. The alien vessel's shields, which should have been strong enough to absorb anything a human destroyer could throw at them, began failing under the Dakota's assault. How are we doing that? Kate asked in wonder. I'm not just controlling our weapons, Lisa said. I'm analyzing the quantum frequencies of their shield generators and matching our weapons to resonate at the exact frequency needed to disrupt them. Dr. Ben Taylor was still staring at his scanner. Captain, her neural activity is increasing. She's processing more information per second than our main computer. Jake looked around the bridge and realized that his crew was witnessing something that would change everything they thought they knew about the war, about technology, and about what humans could become. But there was something else in Lisa's expression that worried him. She looked like someone who was in pain, like the effort of controlling the ship was costing her more than she was willing to admit. "Lisa," Jake said carefully, "what happened to the other enhanced humans? Where's the rest of your unit?" Lisa was quiet for a moment as she continued working. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer. "They're dead, Captain. All of them. The HFY found our base and destroyed it 6 months ago. I was the only one who escaped." "How many were there?" Jake asked. 12, Lisa said. "We were the prototype unit. The first humans to successfully integrate with quantum-level AI systems." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. 12 enhanced humans, and the HFY sent 12 heavy cruisers to hunt you down. "One ship for each of us they killed," Lisa said, "and one more for me." On the tactical display, Jake could see that the HFY fleet was beginning to change tactics. Instead of trying to overwhelm the Dakota with firepower, they were now attempting to surround the ship and trap it, but Lisa was ready for them. Under her control, the Dakota began moving in ways that ships weren't supposed to move. She twisted through space like a living thing, avoiding enemy fire while striking back with weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "The debris field," Lisa said suddenly. "Captain, how much do you know about the wreckage around us?" Jake looked at the scanner readings. "You said it was from the battle, where your research ship was destroyed." Lisa shook her head. "The Harmony was destroyed, yes. But the debris field isn't random wreckage, Captain. It's a weapon." Before Jake could ask what she meant, Lisa's hands began moving over controls he didn't even recognize. Somehow, she had accessed systems that weren't supposed to exist on the Dakota. On the main screen, the debris field around them began to move. Pieces of destroyed ships, both human and alien, started drifting toward the HFY fleet with purpose and coordination. Jake realized that the frightened botanist they had rescued was not just an enhanced human, she was something far more dangerous than that. And now she was turning the entire battlefield into a weapon that the HFY Empire had never seen before. The debris field came alive under Lisa Brooks' control. Chunks of metal that had been floating dead in space suddenly moved with deadly purpose toward the HFY fleet. Jake Morrison watched the main screen in amazement as pieces of destroyed ships began forming into new configurations, creating weapons that had never existed before. "This is impossible," Sam Rodriguez whispered, staring at his engineering console. "She's controlling matter at the molecular level." Lisa didn't respond. Her focus was complete, her enhanced mind processing information faster than any computer the Dakota carried. The metallic gleam in her eyes had grown brighter, and Jake noticed that her fingers weren't just pressing buttons anymore. They seemed to be connected to the console itself, as if the ship's systems were responding directly to her thoughts. A piece of HFY hull plating, twisted and torn from the earlier battle, suddenly straightened itself and accelerated toward one of the enemy cruisers. But instead of simply striking the ship, the debris began wrapping around the cruiser's weapons ports, sealing them shut with impossible precision. "She's turning their own ships against them," Kate Williams said in awe. More debris moved to join the attack. Human ship fragments merged with alien technology, creating hybrid weapons that combined the best features of both civilizations. A destroyed human missile launcher fused with HFY energy conduits, creating a weapon that fired bolts of pure quantum energy. The HFY fleet tried to destroy the approaching debris with their weapons, but Lisa was ready for them. Every shot they fired was anticipated. Every defensive move was countered before they could complete it. She was fighting 12 ships simultaneously and winning. "Her brain activity is becoming dangerous," Dr. Ben Taylor called out, his voice tight with worry. "Captain, she's pushing her neural systems beyond safe limits." Jake looked at Lisa and saw that Ben was right. Sweat was beading on her forehead, and her breathing had become rapid and shallow. The effort of controlling so much technology was taking a visible toll on her body. "Lisa, you need to stop," Jake said. "You're going to kill yourself." "Not yet," Lisa replied, without taking her attention from the battle. "Almost finished." One of the Kethber cruisers exploded as a piece of debris found its way into the ship's reactor core. The explosion was brilliant white, lighting up the entire battlefield. But instead of being destroyed, the explosion's energy was somehow captured and redirected by other debris pieces, creating a web of destructive force that spread throughout the enemy fleet. Jake had served in space combat for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Lisa wasn't just fighting a battle. She was conducting a symphony of destruction, turning the laws of physics into musical notes that she played with deadly precision. Another Kethver ship died, then another. The alien vessels that should have been able to destroy 100 human destroyers were being torn apart by their own wreckage. Jake realized that Lisa had been planning this from the moment they found her. The escape pod, the mysterious damage to its systems, even the location where they had discovered her. None of it had been random. "You set a trap," Jake said in amazement. "You knew they would come looking for you." "The Kethver Empire is very predictable," Lisa said. Her voice was strained now, the effort of maintaining control over so much technology clearly exhausting her. "They always send exactly enough force to ensure victory. 12 ships to kill one enhanced human. But you're not just one enhanced human," Alex Carter observed. Lisa smiled, but there was something frightening about the expression. "No, Commander. I'm the last enhanced human, and that makes me very, very dangerous." The remaining Kethver ships were trying to retreat now, but the debris field followed them. Pieces of wreckage moved through space faster than ships, striking the fleeing cruisers with calculated precision. Lisa had turned the entire battlefield into a hunting ground, and the aliens were the prey. Sam Rodriguez was staring at his console. "In terror, Captain, the ship's systems are changing. I don't recognize half these readings anymore." Jake looked around the bridge and realized that the Dakota herself was being transformed by Lisa's control. The walls seemed more solid, the air felt different, and the lights had taken on a subtle blue glow that hadn't been there before. Lisa wasn't just using their ship's systems, she was evolving them. "What are you doing to my ship?" Jake demanded. "Making her better," Lisa replied. "Making her worthy of what she's about to become." The last few Kethver cruisers were fighting desperately now, firing everything they had at the approaching debris. But their weapons were useless against an enemy that could predict their every move and adapt to their tactics in real time. One by one, the alien ships were overwhelmed and destroyed. Dr. Ben Taylor was studying his medical scanner with growing alarm. "Captain, her neural activity is reaching critical levels. If she doesn't stop soon, her brain will suffer permanent damage, or worse," Kate added quietly. Jake watched Lisa's face and saw that she was aware of the danger. Her features were tight with pain, and her hands were trembling as they worked the controls. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Not until every Kethver ship was destroyed. The final cruiser died in a ball of expanding plasma, torn apart by weapons that had been built from the graves of its companions. The battlefield fell silent, except for the Dakotas, engines, and the quiet hum of systems that no longer sounded quite like they had before. Lisa's hands finally stopped moving across the controls. She swayed on her feet, and Jake caught her before she could fall. "It's finished," she said weakly. "They're all dead." Jake helped her to a chair and looked around the bridge. His crew was staring at the main screen, where the wreckage of 12 Kethver heavy cruisers drifted in expanding clouds of debris. A single human destroyer had just defeated a fleet that should have been able to conquer an entire star system. But as Jake looked at Lisa Brooks, he realized that victory had come with a price. Her face was pale, her breathing was labored, and The metallic gleam in her eyes was flickering like a dying light. Whatever she had done to defeat the HFY fleet, it had cost her more than she was willing to admit. "Lisa," Jake said carefully, "what happens now?" She looked up at him with eyes that seemed much older than they had just hours before. "Now, Captain Morrison, you have to decide what to do with the most dangerous weapon in human space." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Lisa's smile was sad and knowing. "You have to decide what to do with me." Lisa Brooks collapsed in the chair, her body finally giving in to the strain of controlling forces that no human was meant to handle. Dr. Ben Taylor rushed to her side with his medical scanner, his face grim as he read the results. "Captain, her neural pathways are severely damaged," Ben said quietly. "The enhancement process was never meant for extended use like this. Her brain is shutting down." Jake Morrison knelt beside Lisa's chair. Her breathing was shallow, and the metallic gleam in her eyes was fading fast. "How long does she have?" he asked. Ben checked his scanner again. "Hours, maybe less. The quantum interface is breaking down, and when it fails completely, it will take her nervous system with it." Lisa opened her eyes and looked at Jake. "I told you there would be a price, Captain. There has to be something we can do," Jake said. Lisa shook her head weakly. "The enhancements were always temporary. We knew that from the beginning. Each time we used them, eventually, we would have stopped being human altogether." Kate Williams was studying the long-range sensors with a worried expression. "Captain, we have a problem. That battle sent quantum signatures across subspace. Every major power in the galaxy is going to know what happened here." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" "The quantum manipulation Lisa used creates distinctive energy patterns," Kate explained. "By now, every intelligence service in human space knows that impossible technology was used in this system. They'll all want to know what it was and how to get it." Alex Carter was checking communications. "Sir, I'm already picking up coded transmissions from at least 6 different sources. Military, corporate, probably alien intelligence too." Lisa struggled to sit up straighter. "Captain, you have a choice to make. You can report what happened here and trigger a new arms race that might save humanity or destroy it. Or you can let the secret die with me." "What do you mean let it die?" Jake asked. "The enhancement technology was shut down for a reason," Lisa said. Her voice was getting weaker, but her words were clear. "The test subjects became too powerful. We started to see baseline humans as a different species. We became convinced that we were the next step in human evolution and that regular humans were holding us back." Growing horror. "You're saying the enhanced humans turned against regular humans?" 3 of my unit tried to take control of a military base 6 months before the HFY found us," Lisa admitted. "They believed they could run human civilization better than the people who were actually in charge. The government decided we were too dangerous to exist." Jake stared at her. "So they shut down the program." "They tried to," Lisa said. "But by then, we were too powerful to simply deactivate. It took a full military assault to stop the others. I was the only one who still believed that regular humans deserved to make their own choices." Sam Rodriguez was still staring at his engineering console in amazement. "The changes you made to the ship, they're still here. The Dakota is operating at levels that shouldn't be possible." Lisa nodded. "The quantum patterns are self-sustaining once they're established. Your ship has been fundamentally altered, Captain. She'll never be the same." Jake looked around the bridge and realized the implications. The Dakota herself had become a weapon beyond anything in human space. If the wrong people got their hands on her, they could reverse engineer technology that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "What do you want me to do?" Jake asked Lisa. "Tell them the battle was won by a new weapon system that was destroyed in the fighting," Lisa said. "Let me die quietly, and let the secret die with me. Humanity isn't ready for what I represent." "But the aliens will keep coming," Alex pointed out. Without enhanced humans, how can we defend ourselves? Lisa's smile was weak, but genuine. The same way humans have always defended themselves, Commander, with courage, intelligence, and the refusal to give up. You don't need to become monsters to beat monsters. Dr. Ben Taylor checked his scanner again. Captain, her life signs are failing rapidly. Jake felt torn between his duty to humanity and his respect for the woman who had just saved his ship and crew. Lisa, there might be others who could handle the enhancements better. People who wouldn't lose their humanity. There might be. Lisa agreed. But do you want to take that risk? Do you want to gamble with the future of the human race? Before Jake could answer, the communications system crackled to life. A stern voice filled the bridge, speaking with the authority of high military command. U.S. Dakota, this is Admiral Harrison of the Fifth Fleet. You will maintain position and prepare to be boarded. We're detecting impossible energy signatures from your location. Jake looked at Lisa, who nodded weakly. They're already coming, Captain. The choice is being made for you. Jake stood up and walked to the communications console. He thought about the battle they had just survived, about the 12 Kethver cruisers that had been destroyed by forces beyond human understanding. He thought about the crew under his command and the responsibility he had to protect them. Admiral Harrison, this is Captain Morrison, Jake said into the communicator. We encountered a Kethver battle group and destroyed them using an experimental weapon system. The system was heavily damaged in the fighting and is no longer functional. There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. Captain, our sensors indicate quantum manipulation on a scale we've never seen before. That's not possible with any known human technology. Jake looked at Lisa again. She was watching him with eyes that held no judgment, only understanding. Whatever choice he made, she would accept it. Sir, we recovered debris from the battle that appears to contain alien technology, Jake said carefully. It's possible that the Kethver were testing new weapons systems. We destroyed everything we could find. Another pause. Captain Morrison, you will maintain position until our investigation team arrives. Do not attempt to leave the system. Understood, sir, Jake replied. He turned off the communicator and knelt beside Lisa again. Her breathing was so shallow now that he could barely see her chest rising and falling. Thank you, she whispered. For what? Jake asked. For letting me be human in the end. Lisa Brooks died quietly 20 minutes later, just as the first ships of the Fifth Fleet were arriving in the system. Dr. Ben Taylor recorded her death as the result of injuries sustained during the Kethver attack, and Jake filed a report that mentioned nothing about enhancement technology or impossible abilities. But the Dakota herself remained changed. The quantum patterns Lisa had created were still active in the ship's systems, making her faster, stronger, and more capable than any vessel in the human fleet. Jake found himself wondering if he had made the right choice. 3 days later, as they were finally allowed to leave the system, Kate Williams brought him disturbing news. Captain, I've been analyzing the quantum signatures in our computer core, she said. The patterns Lisa created aren't just random changes. They're like a template, a blueprint for something. A blueprint for what? Jake asked. Kate's expression was troubled. I think she left instructions, sir, hidden in the ship's systems. Instructions for creating more enhanced humans. Jake stared at the main screen, where the stars looked the same as they always had, but he knew that everything was different now. Lisa Brooks was dead, but her legacy lived on in the quantum patterns flowing through his ship's circuits. Somewhere, in those patterns was the key to humanity's future evolution. The question was whether that future would save the human race or destroy it. And Jake Morrison, captain of a single destroyer in the vast darkness of space, was the only one who knew the secret existed. He had thought he was just rescuing a survivor. Instead, he had become the guardian of the most dangerous knowledge in human history.